Practicing this type of work and knowing it are two different things. Listening to my work or to these videos or anybody's work is not practicing it. Reading Neville is not practicing it. That's simply learning the knowledge of it. Practicing it is much different. And so don't listen to my videos thinking that it's going to change anything. There's nothing to change but self. And self is not external, it's within. And so I don't use outside things to change myself, for self is not outside of me. And the way I would simply, if I had to give you, or the way I gave myself a simple understanding of this, I would say it's this. You want to enter or occupy the mental space where it already is done, where you already are that, where it already is so. That there is nothing else you need to do to get it. You occupy the space where it already is that. It already is the way you want it to be. That's the difference between success and failure, for success and failure are within us, as all things are, including myself. And so if I don't occupy, because Neville gave this word called, he would say deferred occupancy is really the root of failure. And the reason why it's the root of failure, if you think of it as the inner man, you will see that it is, because if I don't embody it, then I'm not it. I must really embody what I want to be. And if imagining creates reality, as the claim goes, then I must imagine myself the way I want to be. I must be the thing. I must imagine myself as already being it if I want to be it. And so I don't feel scared or unworthy to do it. That's the only way to do it. If imagining creates reality, I must imagine myself as if I already am that. Not to become it, but to simply occupy this mental space. So I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm simply changing myself. And that is the key in the practice of this. It's persisting in the mental space where I already am that. And that is the difference between anxiety and peace. It's focusing on that change of it already being that way. And I made a video on this before, but it has to be repeated over and over again, because it's going to click one day. You're going to understand exactly what I'm saying, that I'm addressing this to you, the inner man. If you don't embody it, you aren't it, but you can embody it. There is a mental space in you where it already is that way. You're not embodying that space. You're not occupying it so it can be that way. You're occupying a space where it already is that way, where you already are that thing. That is what you occupy. That is what you persist in. And so I have to ask myself, am I occupying a space to get it, or am I occupying a space where it already is that way? That's the difference. And that's what I persist in, and that's the true practice of it. It's not listening to videos or reading, although I don't think that's wrong. I just think that, and I don't think really things are wrong. I just think that it's, to practice it, it's really about going inward into oneself instead of listening outwardly to other people like me speak about this. It's good to gain knowledge, but you'll gain more knowledge if you go within yourself and change. You'll see the nuance in the change. And when you experience that feeling of it already being that way, when you experience that peace or that freedom, that it's not about trying to work your way into it. It's about occupying a space where it already is that way. That you're going to find persisting in that is far easier and far more peaceful and far more freeing than it would be in trying to make sure your thoughts are good, trying to make sure everything's fine. When Neville was in the army, he occupied the space inside of himself where he already was in New York. He wasn't imagining to get out. He was imagining already being in New York. That's the difference. The focus is completely different. The focus is not on the external, but in the change of where I want to occupy within myself. That is the change that Neville did. He changed where he occupied. He, instead of imagining himself to get to New York, he imagined himself already being in New York. That's the difference. That is what you persist in. And he said he felt lovely for like 9 days. He just kept doing that and it felt amazing. I'm not saying, and it's not about feeling amazing. That will happen. It elicits that response, because why wouldn't it? If it's a fulfilled desire, it's a fulfilled wish. Why wouldn't it elicit that response? But it's not anything forceful. It's simply occupying that position where it already is that way. Now, what tends to happen is people visit these places within themselves. They don't stay. They don't feel worthy enough to actually stay in it. And so you want to be something, you imagine it already being that way, and you occupy that space. You stay there, but some visit. They just visit for a little time and they leave and they go back to their previous state. You will see that changing states is very simple, but it just requires your persistence. That's it. But the persistence it's already being that way. That's the persistence. That's the key in changing it. That is the difference between success and failure. For failure is a lack of embodiment. For the inner man, I can change myself right away, right now, but it doesn't mean I'm going to persist in my change. I will go back. If I so choose, I can go back. But why go back if I'm already leaving it? But I don't go into a new space trying to get to that space. I go into it where it already is the case. That's the difference. That's success. That's hitting your mark. That's what that is. And you persist in that. And you don't allow yourself to let all the labels that have been thrown on you, you don't allow yourself for the circumstances that you've gone through to define you. For things don't define man. Man defines man. And you're man. You get to define yourself. And self is within. And so you start inward. You don't go outside to someone else to tell you who you are. You go within and you see the confirmation that comes out. And so what this is a man's testing of his ability to externalize. We are testing our ability to externalize. And what we want to externalize is things already being that way. It says, don't say there's 4 months until harvest, but see it's already ripe. That's what I persist in. I know I've repeated myself in this, but this is crucial. This is something that needs to be repeated until it penetrates the mind, until it saturates the mind with understanding. Because until then, you're most likely going to give yourself anxiety attacks. Because you're going to feel like, have I reached it? Have I reached it? How do I know I embodied it? You know you embodied it when you occupy the space where you already are that, instead of trying to get it. That's the difference. One is, it's completely effortless. It feels wrong at first, but if you persist in it, you'll see that you'll start noticing changes because you're changing yourself. You'll notice changes in your life very quickly. And I wrote a post once that said, the less you look, the more you see. And the point I'm trying to make that is if you focus on the inner change within, if you sustain and persist inside, and you just, by that, I mean, you simply stay or you visit the place of where it already is that way. And you just focus on that inwardly. And you focus on that feeling inwardly. As I said, a thought is a catalyst, feeling is a sustenance. So the more you feel it, you're sustaining it for yourself. The more you occupy it, you sustain it. And you don't focus so much on what's happening outside of you. I noticed this for myself. The less I looked to my external, I would just turn my head or something would happen. I'd hear something. It would just pop up and it would be exactly what I imagined. And that's what I would know that if I just stop focusing so much on what's happening outside of me and pay attention to what's happening within me, I see its reflection quickly. So the less I look to the outside, the more I see what I'm actually doing within me. And the more I focus on what's happening within me, I seem to encounter my manifestations quicker instead of becoming anxious on when is it going to happen outside of me. I focus on it already happened within me. That's what I focus on. That is the difference between success and failure. As I stated, these things are within us. Success and failure is within us. And so what tends to happen is that someone will have a desire, and the desire will be something they've wanted for a while, but they'll find themselves manifesting things in other areas, which is fine, but then they won't find themselves manifesting or expressing the things they want in another area. And what I found for this is that the individual, including myself, tends to believe in two gods, that there's another God that creates that desire and a different God that creates this desire. There are not two gods. If you can stitch this together and create a unity, that there's only one God to all my desires, there's another freedom that you're given. It's another key that opens you up within. And you'll see that that is yourself. That you go within, you commune with yourself for that desire, and the other desire that you feel can't be expressed. You go to the same God. You go within. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't think that there's one God for this desire and one God for that desire. That separation breeds nothing but confusion, and it breeds nothing but stagnation. Once you see there's only one God, you'll start to free yourself even more and more. And you do more and more and more. You don't just stop after one thing. Occupy something else after. Feel that you already are this other thing, and feel that you're already that thing, and feel that you already have this thing. Don't go to the position of trying to get it. Go to the position of already having it inside yourself and sustain it. It feels so wonderful. And so again, practicing it and knowing it are two different things. Practice it by finding a new mental home or new mental position. Occupy something new where it already is the case. That's the test you're going to have for yourself. Can I really believe it already is that way? Can I believe that? If I can, then I must become it, because I must be what I embody. And if imagining creates reality, then I have to imagine myself already being the thing I want to be.